Today I'm going to be grading every Premier League team season in today's tier list. So here we go, we're going to have A star, A, B, C, F as in complete failure, and U for the teams who've just done unspeakable things this season and deserve that U grade. I have got my iPad by the side, so if you notice I'm looking over, that's just to give me some notes to know what I'm really talking about, double check that I'm putting them in the right place. So we're starting off with Southampton, who finished 20th in the league. FA Cup, they got to the 4th round, I think. EFL Cup, they did get to the quarters, however they went through several managers. They had one of the worst Premier League seasons we've ever had. I'm gonna say they are F. I'd say it was a failure of a season. In fact, I would have said, had they got the worst Premier League total in history, it probably would have been a better season because at least they achieved something. Then we come to Ipswich, who weren't really much better than Southampton. They got to the 5th round of the FA Cup, the 2nd round of the EFL Cup. Probably going to have to say F for them as well. They were poor. They didn't really give it too much of a go. Then we come to Leicester, who, again, are kind of in a similar position. They did a pretty poor, terrible season in the league, finishing 18th. FA Cup, they made it to the 4th round. EFL, they made it to the 4th round. But nothing was really inspiring for Leicester other than Jamie Vardy having a good send-off, really. They did finish 18th ahead of the other two, but again, it was just a poor season. So I'm also going to say F. None of the new teams got anywhere close to escape, and they were so far off the pace. So for me, all of them F. Then we come to an interesting one, which is Tottenham Hotspur, and I am going to say A star. A star. This is going to annoy so many Arsenal fans and a lot of people, but they had a brilliant season. They finished 17th in the league, which is not brilliant at all. They were well off the pace in the league, don't get me wrong. However, they managed to win the Europa League and get their first trophy in 17 years. And as a fan of any football team, you want your football team to win a trophy. So for Tottenham fans, this was absolute dream scenario, finally winning a trophy, and it happened to be a European trophy as well. So a huge trophy to win, and that's all you want. Plus, that trophy gave them Champions League qualification for next year. So they've qualified for the Champions League and won a trophy. What more can you ask for as a fan? Also, in the cup runs, they managed to get to the semis in the EFL, which I think a lot of people forgot about, and got to the 4th round in the FA Cup. I think Ange Postecoglou had an idea that once the league had got off to such a bad start, the best way for them to qualify for Europe was going to be via a cup. Either that would be the Europa League or the EFL, and they went for it. And that's probably why they're so far down in the league as well. I think their league position isn't representative of how good the team actually is. I think when they turned up on the day, they could beat a lot of sides and probably would have been closer to the top half of the table, but obviously they were like, we'll just qualify for Europe another way and we'll get some silverware. So for me, that's A star and a really good season. I mean, ask any Tottenham fan at the start of the season, would you take 17th but win the Europa League and get Champions League qualification? Or would you rather just have a good league season and not win a trophy? They're going to go for the Europa League every single time. So definitely A star. Then we come to Wolves, who had a meh season. They escaped relegation, so I'm going to say C for them with pretty much ease. They went through 2 managers. They got to the 5th round of the FA Cup, 3rd round of the EFL. As a Wolves fan, you probably would have wanted them to see them do a bit more in the Cups, maybe a nice little cup run, but league form, comfortable as it is. That was with Cunha going in and out of like disciplinary things, so losing your star striker for a bit of the season. Yeah, it was just comfortable, so C for them. Then we come to Manchester United. It's got to be you, hasn't it? This is Manchester United. This is a team who is renowned for winning trophies, competing in Europe, being one of the best sides in football history, and they have absolutely flopped this season. So they finished 15th in the league, which could have been a lot worse. They got knocked out of the FA Cup in the 5th round. They got knocked out of the EFL in the quarters. They did manage to make it to the final of the Europa League, but they lost, and they've just had a dreadful season. They've not qualified for Europe. The squad looks all over the place. They changed their manager, and they've gone backwards. They're going worse down the hill. There's no style of football. Yeah, terrible season. This is just unheard of for Man United, and especially when you think how much money they've spent in recent years. They should be so much nearer the top of the league. They should be competing for Europe. That's what Man United does. So this season has to be you. It's the worst Man United season in memory. This is one of those seasons I used to pray for Man United. when I was a little kid. I just never dreamed of it happening, and we finally got it happening this season, so definitely you. Then West Ham, I'm going to say C grade for them as well. Comfortably escaped relegation, no problems there. Cup runs were non-existent. I think they were third round in both the cups they got knocked out. They had two managers. They've looked a little bit better since Graham Potter's taken over, but nothing really special. C grade for them. Then we come to Everton, who I am also going to say C grade. No cup runs. They were out in the fourth and third round of them. Comfortable in the relegation battle. Not really competing for the top half. They've definitely looked better since David Moyes came back, but it's just another meh season. Maybe it'll get better now that the new stadium is built. They can now concentrate on putting money towards players and having a bit better season, but yeah, C grade for them. Then we come to Crystal Palace. You know where this is going. A star. Unbelievable. They finished 12th in the league with one of the best points totals in Premier League history, I think, which was a brilliant run for them in the start. They then won the FA Cup, which is unbelievable, especially when you know that this is Crystal Palace's first ever major trophy. Like, what a season for Crystal Palace. At this point, A star. It doesn't matter what else happens. They've qualified for Europe now with that. They've got their first ever trophy. Who cares about the EFL, which they finished? Where do they finish in the EFL? They got to the quarters of that as well. So a really decent season for Crystal Palace. Yeah, the Palace fans are in dreamland winning the FA Cup, so it's an easy A star. Then we come to Fulham, who I'm gonna say C grade as well. They didn't really have any cup runs. They got to the quarters of the FA and the third round of the EFL, and they've ended up finishing bottom half. They were in a little bit of a run for an outside place of European football for a lot of the season, but teams like this where it's going to be unlikely they'll get Europe in the league. Go put your eggs in the basket. Go have a cup run. Do what Crystal Palace did. Give your fans some silverware or something. So for me, it's got to be a C grade for them. I think had they finished top half, maybe it would have been B, maybe it would have been A, but yeah, I'm going to say C for them. Then we come to Brentford, who finished top half in 10th. I'm going to say, with the resources, it's between B and A, but I'm going to say B. Yeah, I'm going to say B. I think A would have been too kind for them. I think they need to finish a few more places higher, but they've had a really solid season. Top 10, had a few minor cup runs with got to the quarters of the EFL. Just a decent season, and Brentford fans are definitely going to be happy with it, so I'd say a B is probably a fair result. Then we come to Bournemouth, who I would also say, let me see, what did they get in the cup results? Quarters in the second round. Just missing out. They did have some key injuries. I'd probably say B again as well for them. Top half finish is fantastic for Bournemouth, and I'm sure the fans will love that. It's a shame they did just miss out on Europe. Shame they didn't really have a bit better of a cup run, but yeah, just a generally solid season for them. Then we come to Brighton, who again, B grade. Top half finish. They were excellent most of the season. Got to quarters in one of the cups. They could have maybe gone ahead and done a bit more of a cup run, especially when it was like that. It looked likely that 8th place probably wasn't going to give Europe. The cup run maybe would have been a better option, winning the first big trophy in a long time. I don't know. Brighton won a trophy. I can't think. But yeah, it was a pretty good season for them. B. Well, it'll be interesting to see if they can build on that for next season. Then we come to Nottingham Forest, who, honestly, it's an A star season. It is unfortunate that they didn't finish in 6th or 5th even and get Europa League or Champions League football, but they've qualified for the Europa Conference League after finishing 7th in the league. They got to the semis of the FA Cup, so they had a decent FA Cup run, and no one, let's be honest, no one expected them to be top half. Never mind competing for Europe all season. I mean, most people were tipping them for maybe outside dark horses for relegation. So the season they've had has been unbelievable. The fact they spent so long in the Champions League place as well is kind of disheartening for them that they didn't end up there. But for me, definitely A star season. This has been the best Nottingham Forest season in my lifetime, I would say. So yeah, for me, A star. Then we come to Villa, who I am going to say A grade. They had a really good season, especially juggling a big competition like the Champions League for the first time in a long time. So they finished 6th in the league, which means they will qualify for the Europa League next season. They had a decent run in the FA Cup. They got to the semis. They had a decent run in the Champions League as well, getting all the way to the quarterfinals and losing to potentially the winners PSG. Yeah, overall I'd say it was a decent season. I'd say A star. Had they made it maybe to a semis of the Champions League, or maybe qualified, if they'd qualified for the Champions League again, I would say A star. And they were so close to doing it, especially on the final day. I mean, they did bottle it, maybe with Martinez getting himself sent off in a crucial game against a very poor Man United. But these things happen, and it's not just on one game, Champions League qualification in the league. So over the remainder of the season, they were really an outside shot. But the fact they managed to get Europa League football is definitely decent for them. So A rating for them. Then I've got Newcastle, who I'm going to say A star. They had a fantastic season. They did what they had to do. They finished 5th in the Premier League. That means they will be qualifying for Champions League football next year, which will be great for the Geordies. They won their first major trophy, well, major domestic trophy for the first time in like 70 years with the EFL. What a moment for the fans that is as well. It's been a long time coming for Newcastle fans, so they definitely deserved it. So A star for that. Didn't have such a good FA Cup run, but other than that, that was the only minor blip. But for me, winning your first trophy, like domestic trophy in 70 years and qualifying for the Champions League, that's more than anyone can dream of. That is an A star season again for them. Then we come to Chelsea, who again I'm going to say A star. I mean, at the start of the season, a lot of people weren't predicting Chelsea to get Champions League football. They've done that. They've got 4th position in the league, and they've been solid all season, qualifying for Champions League. They didn't have great cup runs, only getting to the 4th round in both. However, they won the Europa Conference League, and that is another European trophy. They're now the first side to win the Europa League, Europa Conference League, and Champions League. And so, major props to them. They got in there. It was probably an easier competition. The British sides usually tend to do very well in this, but they did it, got the job done, and qualified for Champions League via the league. Definitely an A-star season for me, for them. Then we come to Man City, who, for them, I'm going to say fail. It's a fail. The amount of money Man City spend, you just expect them to win a trophy. It's been a long time since they haven't won a trophy. They did manage to get Champions League qualification, which at one point looked unlikely, but the league season was dreadful, way off the pace of the title runners. They did manage to recover it and get Champions League football qualified for that. But talking of their cup runs, they were dreadful in the EFL. They did get to the final of the FA Cup, which was a recovery, and everyone just thought they were going to do it. Champions League, they got knocked out just in the knockout phases. They nearly got knocked out in the group stage, so they had a dreadful season. And for Man City standards, with the amount of money they spent, even in January they were spending what, 200 odd million? Yeah, you've got to be doing better than that. You've got to get at least a trophy when you're spending that sort of money just in January, and they should have really done it in the FA Cup. You got to a final, just go and win it. So for me, it has to be F for Man City, and that's only because of the high standards they set. If you'd said it for like the results Man City got were for a lot of the other Premier League teams, it'd be A or B tier, but because it's Man City, it has to be F. Then we come to Arsenal, who, for me, again, I am gonna say it's between F and C. It's how you define how far Arteta has got in his phases of Arsenal. You know what, I'm going to put it as F. Arsenal need to win a trophy. We've said this for the last few seasons. Arsenal need to win a trophy. They've been so close so many times. But this year in the league, they did finish 2nd again, which is the 3rd time in a row, I think. But this was the season they had to win it. Man City fell off, so your biggest rival for the last few seasons has fell off completely. Now's your time to go and win it. But they were nowhere near Liverpool in the league, and they let Liverpool win it a canter, really. They didn't really have to get out of second gear, because every time Liverpool would slip up with an occasional draw, Arsenal would end up losing or something. They were rubbish in the league. They didn't have a run in the cups. They got to the semis of the Carabao Cup, but yet again got absolutely humiliated in the semis. Can't get over the line in that. And then the Champions League, put it all on the line, or that was their excuse for being so poor in the league when the league was pretty much already wrapped up. Champions League will go and win it, they get knocked out in the semis again. It's just not getting over the line, and this is the thing. They've known they've needed a striker for maybe 2 years now, so why didn't they go and buy a striker? That would have certainly helped them out, and they may have done better. They may have got over the line in either the Cup, the EFL Cup, or they may have got over the line in the Champions League. But it's another one of these seasons where Arteta, how much time do Arsenal fans want to give him? They bought the wrong players in the transfer market. They didn't in like January. You look at Villa, they knew they needed strikers. They went all ham, got new attacking lineup. Arsenal again, not the right striker. We'll wait. It's just excuse after excuse for Arsenal. And when they've been building up so much and getting like 89 points the season before, and then to drop off the way they did in the league, especially when Man City have dropped off. Just poor from them, and they need their first trophy, like proper trophy, under Arteta. Finally, we come to Liverpool, and for me, a star. At the start of the season, everyone had Liverpool finishing. They'd be lucky if they even made Europa League places, because everyone thought once the manager changed, once they lost the iconic manager of Jurgen Klopp, they would fall off a cliff. But Arne Slot came in and did what Arne Slot did. They won the league by an absolute canter. I know the points finish wasn't the best compared to previous seasons, but it didn't need to be. They'd been on the beach for like the last 5 games. I mean, they were going to Ibiza, you know, in midweek or Dubai when they had league games because they'd already won it. They got to a final of a cup competition again, which is more than Arsenal can say. They actually got to a final. Unfortunately, lost to Newcastle. The one blip was probably the FA Cup losing, but again, Arne Slot was trying to rest players and keep it up when the league was important, and he ended up winning that. And the Champions League, it was an unfortunate tie against PSG, who have turned out to be one of the best sides that got knocked out in the round of 16, but they did win the group stage, and at one point Liverpool really did look unbeatable. So yeah, for me, a star. So that is how I would tier this season for the Premier League teams. Do you agree with mine or do you not? Let me know how you would tier them in the comments.